Today, we're going to talk about break-even analysis. Break-even analysis, when you leave the course, if you don't remember anything else, you need to understand break-even analysis. You're going to, on your midterm, you're going to have a break-even analysis problem. You have to figure out break-even for it. So let me show you what we're doing, how we do it. And so when we talk about break-even analysis, what is it? Why is it important? How's it done? Break-even is just a matter of when you don't make profit, but you don't have any losses, you've broke even. You've covered your expenses, but you really hadn't made any profit. That's what break-even is. It's just really that simple. Lots of times when we talk about the business, everybody works on the back of the envelope. Does it work? Doesn't it work? What really makes the deciding factor if it works or doesn't work is if it makes money. So all you're doing is saying, how much is it going to cost me to start the business? What's the total funds required to start the business? And the amount that I need to start the business, if someone shows me a pro forma, a business plan, and says they're going to break even in the first month, forget it. It's not going to happen. So let's suppose it's 6 months and you lose $2,000 a month until you start making money. That's $12,000. So you don't just need the money to start the business, you got to cover your losses until you get to break even, so to get to the total funds. This is break even. Now, you're starting here. Anybody know what this blue line is right here? Kaylin, you know what that is? The blue line right here? Kaylin, you know what that line is? Okay, Jennifer, what's that blue line? Okay.
The fixed cost.
That's fixed cost. Now, what does that mean?
It's your cost that's fixed, all your, constant costs.
Okay, and what happens if you have no revenue? Does that fixed cost go away?
No, stays fixed.
You've always got that cost. So what you really do when you start a business, you want to keep that fixed cost as low as possible. So in other words, we have a fixed cost line, and what we have is revenues. But before we get to break even, it's a loss. Above break even is a profit. This would be your total cost line. Starts from fixed costs and continues to increase. This would be your revenue line. So let's suppose I gave you this problem and I said, label all these different areas. Could you label them? Because that's one problem that I'll probably say. Let's suppose I had a loss, I had one. I had break-even point. What is that? What is profit? Where's the total cost and where's the total revenue lines? So when we look over on formulas for break-even, the formula is your fixed cost divided by the price of one product minus a variable cost of one product. And that gives you your break-even units. If I had a price, I sold it for $2, and I had a $1 variable cost, and I had a $10,000 fixed cost, that would mean I'd have to sell 10,000 units to get to break even. So we're going to figure out how to do that, or we're going to show you how to do that. Now, the fixed costs, I wish you could have kept them both up at the same time. Fixed cost increases, it moves your break even higher. Fixed cost decreases, it moves it lower. Variable costs, as they increase, you need more units. As they decrease, you need less units. Sales price, if it decreases, you need more units. If it increases, then you need less units. So you need to understand the relationship on all these different components. So when you do break-even analysis, you do it monthly. I want to know where I stand. And what we normally do, this is the way we I'm going to show you how to do this. And what you do is you pick two products. And that if I was a bar, let's suppose, that it would be beverages and food. Because if I tried to break it down to hamburgers and mixed drinks and beer, draft beer, it'd be too much. So we'd break it down into two. And so we'd say, okay, what's number one would be beverages, number two would be food. And we would say, what's our typical cost of beverage? If we're selling it for $5, what's our cost? We do the same thing for the second product. And so what we're going to do is we're going to figure out that we're going to look at the two of these, and we're going to take their total sales that we estimate for the month. We're going to divide it and see what percentage each one represents. So that if you had $10,000 in fixed cost, they're not going to both cover the 10,000. They're going to cover their prorated share, and I'll explain that. But the sum of the two is going to have to cover 100% of the cost. So the best way to do this is that let's build a pro forma, right? Isn't that the best way? So let's build a pro forma with Boudreaux's alligators. Now, Boudreaux is setting up an alligator company, and they're going to go out and they're going to catch alligators. So Boudreaux's, we want to know what's his revenue is going to be, what's his variable cost, what's his fixed cost, and what's his one-time setup cost. Now, I'm going to give you a Boudreaux problem, just like this. So first thing we got to do, we calculate the first month's figures, determine what's break even, assume a break even is going to occur at 6 months, and we then scale the growth from 1 to 6. And then we'll assume a growth after 12. So we have to calculate first month. We got to calculate how many we're going to sell, what's the fixed cost going to be, what's the cost per unit, what's our one-time setup cost. Now, we assume Boudreaux's been doing this for a while, so he knows. So here's what we do. We use a method called SWAG, scientific wild ass guess, right? Because we have no idea how many alligators he's going to catch in the next 6 months. So we just got to come up with a figure. So we use our SWAG method. So we want break even in units, and we want to get a revenue to get how many alligators do we catch before we kind of cover our costs. Or what's our dollar amount of revenue we have to have? So once again, we're back to this break even. How many alligators does he have to catch and sell to get to that break even point? And that's what Boudreaux wants to know. And we're assuming, why 6 months? Well, if you come to me and you give me money, I only want you to come and ask me for money one time. I don't want you to say, oh, I'm going to break even the first month. And Boudreaux comes back to Dr. Cheek. And we didn't make it the first month, but we're going to make it 6 months. And next month he comes back, oh, Dr. Cheek, we almost got 6 months is how long it's going to take. When you build these pro formas, I raised $500,000 to put out 250 coin-operated phones. And the two guys I raised the money from, well, three guys, two were brothers from Germany, and they had the Volkswagen Audi distribution rights for South America and Puerto Rico. And then the third partner was a chartered accountant. They don't have CPAs in Great Britain, they have chartered accountants. This guy would show up once a month and look over my shoulder, looking at the pro forma. You said this is what you're going to do, and this is what you're doing. Why didn't we do this? Why didn't we? So what I would tell you is that underestimate and overperform, and good things will happen. But the 6 months is to give yourself some leeway, so that if you quit your job, let's suppose, and need the money, you better have the time to do it. So the sales growth, what we're starting from nothing and we want it to take off. Now, is it going to go extraordinarily fast in 6 months? Probably not, but it's going to grow pretty quick. And later on, we want it to look like a hockey stick. We want it to start here and then almost straight up take off. I have a sinus infection, guys, so you have to put up with me. So once we get into, because we're going to calculate, what you guys will be calculating is 1 year, month by month, in the years 2 and 3 by just an annual basis. So the further you get out, you're really getting on a swag basis, really in there. But once you get traction, take off, and you need to show it that. So here we are. Here's the story. He's starting a business. He's gonna have 5 boats, 2 people in each boat. He says he's gonna need about $250,000 for licenses, for equipment and everything else, and $70,000 for the license and all. And that includes a warehouse where he'll process caters and catch. He says he thinks each boat will catch 2 alligators per day the first month, 3 alligators per day the second month, and 4 alligators the third month. Now he says he feels that he'll be able to hunt alligators an average of 20 days per month. That's what he's going to be able to do. So he says they average 300 pounds and 6 feet in length. He says that they usually pay him $1.50 a pound for alligator meat, because the average meat is only 25 pounds, and $9 a foot for alligator skins. His processing cost should be about 40% for alligator meat. Now, that processing cost is called variable cost, and 50% for alligator skins. His expenses. Now, Boudreaux thinks highly of himself because Boudreaux's paying himself $9,500, warehouse manager $35,000, assistant $2,500, truck gasoline expenses $2,000, warehouse rental $4,000, cable, telephone utilities $1,000. Now, Boudreaux's brother-in-law, Hebert, is going to offer to provide the funds. But he says, a one-shot deal, Boudreaux, don't come back. Tell me what you need. So that the question would be, let's go back. The question would be, what's the minimum amount Boudreaux needs to get to break even? How many months will it take for him to make a profit? Well, he's going to tell Hebert it's going to take 6 months, because that's what we're really doing. And how much revenue will he need to make monthly before he starts making a profit? Now, Hebert wants to know all the questions answered. So Boudreaux says, how in the world do I do that? Well, Boudreaux built something called a pro forma. Pro forma is just expected performance. All right. Now, I've got the correct, I've done this before, so this is different numbers. But we'd say meat sold, skins. Now, this is 6 feet this is 30 pounds rather than 7, but I'm going to pull up a live spreadsheet in just a second, and we'll work through it. And so that what you should be able to see is variable cost, total variable costs, operating revenues, salaries, expenses, his one-time setup costs, and away we go. So let me get to I'm going to stop sharing this. Can you guys see this okay? Now, what we're gonna do, we're gonna look at the alligators he caught. Now, he said, let me see if I can move this over so I can see both screens. Here's what Boudreaux said. Boudreaux said that we go all the way, alligators got all the way up here. What Boudreaux said was he said that he's going to have 5 boats with 2 people in each. And he says the 5 boats will catch 2 alligators apiece, right? So we know there are 5 boats times 2 alligators each times 20 days. So he's going to catch 200 alligators. Now it's important later on, you're not going to remember how you came up with those figures. When you do so, you're going to show me the calculations. Now, what he said was he was going to do exactly the same thing. Let's just copy this over. But what we're going to do, we're going to go with number here. And these now he's going to catch 3. And now he's going to catch 4. Now, his alligator was going to sell, he said it's going to sell for $1.50 a pound. So we want to make sure we put the numbers in there so we remember. No, I'm sorry, we don't $1.50 a pound. What we said was he's going to get 25 pounds. £25 per alligator. Skin, he said he was going to get 6 feet. Now, meat, he said, $1.50. $1.50. And that $1.50, and he said that he was going to get $9 a foot, I think is what he said he would get for the skins. Now, on alligator meat, what did he say? He said it was going to cost him 40%. And he said it was going to cost him 50% for alligator skins. So this is the stuff that we know at this point, right? So we say alligator meat, he's doing the 200 pounds, 200 alligators times 25. So he's going to get 5,000 pounds of meat. Alligator skins, he's going to get the 200 times 6 feet. So we know he's going to get 5,000 pounds of meat and 1,200 feet of skins. So he says, I didn't finish this off, so what we know is we now want to calculate his revenues. And the way we do that is we say, hey, we've got 500 pounds of meat. We're going to multiply it times what we're going to get a pound, which is $1.50. So what we've got is $7,500 we'll see in the first month. Now in skins, we're going to get, we know that we're going to have 1,200 feet of skins. times $9. So we got a total revenue, and all we're gonna do is we're gonna get out of here, go away. My screen doesn't like me. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna use the sum of, and we know we'll have $18,300 revenues for the first month. And what we'll do for our variable costs, we'll go back and they'll be separate. Will be $7,500 times the 40%. So we know we're spending $3,000 on variable costs. And on alligator skins, we'll do the same thing, but we'll use the skins. And it'll be different because that cost is 50%. And we go back to our sums. And now to look at our operating revenues, we look at our total revenues here minus a variable cost. So we know we've got $9,900. Salaries, what did he tell us? He told us the salaries, and we want to make sure we put them in here one at a time. 9,500 plus 3,500 plus 2,500. All right, so we got 15,500 in salaries. Rent is 4,000. And truck expenses, utilities, truck expenses was 2,000 and $1,000. And if we go back and use our auto sum again, we know our fixed cost is 22.5. Our net operating income is our operating revenues minus our fixed costs. So we know we lost $12,600. Now, equipment and machinery, Boudreaux told us he was going to spend $250,000. And he said that other miscellaneous, I think, was 70. So at this point, his setup costs were $320. His minimum cash requirements would be the $320,000. We would have to use a minus to make 12,000 positive. But you know, after the first month, he needs $332,600. Jennifer, questions? Connor? It's a lot to absorb, guys. Warner, you got questions? We good? Louis? Samantha, you good? Okay, now, Rachel, you're gonna have to build one of these. Malik, you're gonna have to build one of these guys. Okay, now, so what we've done is that we have now done our first month. We know that 300, 400 for the second month and third month. But what we can do, this is real simple, because all we really have to do is that we take these two numbers. No, let's do break even. This is really all we need to do to get to break even. If you can estimate, see if you're starting a brand new business, Brennan, let me see your face. You're hiding from me, man. I didn't wake you up, did I? You good?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So, Brennan, trying to guesstimate for 6 months or a year or something is crazy, right? So what we try to do, if we can just come up with the first month, we can calculate the rest. So let's go and we're assuming we're going to break even. So all we have is the first month. So let's calculate break even. Well, first thing we have to do, we know the fixed cost is $22,500, right? Michael, you're making us all dizzy, man. All right, so we know it's 22.5. We've got two products, alligator meat and alligator skin. So what we got to do is we got to figure out what portion of the fixed cost. They don't each have to cover 22.5, they cover their portion. So how do we determine their portion? Remember earlier I told you, if we look at the revenues, first thing we got to do is we got to figure out what percentage. So if we look at the revenues from alligator meat, 7,500, and we divide it by the total revenue of 18,000, what we're going to do, first of all, let's change these to percentage. We see 41%. Now we know the other one must be 49, but let's calculate just to make sure. So we'll do is we'll say 18.5 divided by the total revenues. So what that would tell us, and if we sum those up, just to be on the safe side, they've got to equal 100%. At this point, we know 41% of the overhead is covered by meat and 59% is covered by the skins. So let's look at the portion of fixed cost. All we do is we say the fixed cost times 41%, and we know $9,221 is covered by the, I guess I'll move it too close, by the meat. And then we look at the skins, and what we do is we say the total fixed cost times 59. As a check, you sum it, and it should equal the total fixed cost of 22.5. And it does. Bryce, you got that? Because I'm going to give you, Boudreaux, I'm going to see this problem over here, Boudreaux. I'm going to give it to you on the midterm, and I'm just going to change the numbers. It's probably going to be worth 50 points on the midterm, or maybe 75. So you got to understand it. So now we say, how many units does it take to get to break even? Now, guys, do you remember the formula? The formula is fixed cost. So let's go ahead and put the formula in. So the formula is fixed cost, so we know it's divided by the cost of one unit, which is $1.50, right? Minus the variable cost. Now, the variable cost is $1.50 times 40%. So we know we need 10,246 units to get to break even. 10,000 alligator meats. No, I put it on the wrong line. So let's do the same thing for fixed costs. How many units do we need in skins? We do exactly the same thing. We take the fixed cost here, we divide it by the sales price of one unit, which is $9, minus $9 times the variable cost, which is 0.5. So now what we do is we know that when we have approximately 10,000 units of alligator meat and 2,900 of alligator skins, we're close to break even. So are we, if we wanted to look at it from a revenue standpoint, we'd take the units times 150. And that would say when we have revenues of 15,000 in meat, or times 9, when we have revenues of around 41,000, we're at break even. So what do we do now? We've got this information. What do we do? Well, here's what we do. We go to our 6 month. All we got to do is copy these same formulas over. Over, right? And what we do is we go up to our units on month 6, and we plug in our units here. And then what we do here is we plug in our units here. Guess what we have? Break even. Brady, you got that? So that's what you're going to have to do. Now, in this case, he gave us the numbers for 300, 400. You don't really, after the units for the first one, alligators caught, you're not really concerned with alligators caught anymore. What you're really concerned with is the units. So I'd say it's going to take 10,000 here, 5,000. Maybe I'll go to 6,000. Maybe I go to 7,000. Maybe I go to 8,000. Maybe I go to 9,000. Here, I'm going to get to 2,900. So maybe I go to 1,500. We're using swag, remember, scientific wild ass guess. So we're going to gradually go from 1,200 to 2,900. So let's suppose we go to 2,000 here, and we go to 2,200. because we're using swag, right? We go to 2,600. Now here we are. So now the question becomes, Weston, how much money, he's got to tell Abear how much money he needs. So Weston, how much money does he need at this point? Do you know? Turn your mic on.
For the second period,
And so how much, he's got to tell Abear how much money he wants. How much money does he have to ask Abear for? Remember what I told you, we had to do one-time setup costs plus his losses until we got to break even. So when we look at this, 12,000, 10,000, 7,000, you see his losses are going down, but he doesn't have any money. Abear's got all the money. So what he's really got to do is he's got to say, after the second month, he's got to have this 320,000. And I'm going to use minus because to make this positive. So after the second month, he needs 342,000, right? After the third month, he needs that plus his losses. So here's what Boudreaux's got to ask his Abear for. He's got to say, Abear, I need $358,250. And at that point, I can be at break even. Because now I'll start making money. No profit at month 6, but no loss. That's how we do a pro forma. All you really did was come up with an estimate of the first month. And once you come up with that estimate first month, you assume you're going to break out even in 6 months, and you swag it from 5,000 to 10,000, 1,200 to 2,900. Copy your formulas over, and it takes care of itself.
Wait, so how much would he ask for?
You'd ask for $358,250. Now, what that represents is your initial investment of 320, right?
Yes, sir.
Plus, you got to get all this money. Boudreaux didn't have any money at all. So he lost 12, 10, 7, 5, 2. So he needs a total of $358,250. Now, what that really means is 320 plus all of his losses for 5 months.
Okay. Got you.
No questions, guys? You ready to do it? You want me to give you the midterm now? Now I get to see you face to face because I'll show up at midterm. And we'll actually go to school for a change. Who's Bryce, you at school?
You said, am I at school?
Yes.
No, I'm at my apartment.
Okay. Who's on campus right now? Anybody? Everybody goes to campus for something on a regular basis? Well, we'll set the date. We'll keep the date fluid. But one of the major components of the midterm is going to be break-even analysis. And so you've got to understand it. What I'd like to do, you've all got copies of the files. I'll do even better than that. I've got the, let's stop sharing this screen. And let's share another screen. Oh, no.
Dr. Cheek, do you like post these Zoom recordings?
Yep. You're gonna need that, huh?
Yes, sir.
I
For sure.
can't understand why, but I'll be glad to share it with you guys.
Appreciate it.
Let's see. So you've got everything you need. But what happens, the important thing, is you look in, you can see everything I've done when you look at, and even better than that, you see those little dots here on the corner? Tells you exactly what I